inaugural races of this tournament in the group stages, both of their Gm1s ended up being a tie to show how skilled these runners are. And we are off!
Well, one of our runners is off. Looks like we got a little bit of a desync on between our runners, but that should be taken care of soon enough. But right now we got Crabcase doing her specialty, just scoping out a few of the robot masters, and then once he sees maybe what's available, goes to a specific stage. Right now, she's going to Metal Man, and Siberian Bull just goes flat out and winds up coincidentally finding Metal Man on his side as well. So right now we're a little bit synced as far as where our runners are starting off first.
So there will be a little bit of a stream delay on Crabcake's side as Siberian Bull's stream catches up, so we'll be able to see exactly where they are in terms of their play.
Okay, so as we continue on, let's just talk about what's randomized in this game. So we have a small little thing here that is actually kind of easier to say what isn't randomized, because what technically isn't randomized is generally the level layouts, except for a few situations, are mostly the same. The movements and physics are going to be pretty much the same. Just overall, if you want to talk about what's randomized, as you can see, we got enemies randomized, our music's randomized, the colors randomized, the stages in which we go to with our stage select is randomized, the boxes you're going to be seeing are randomized, their AIs are randomized, the weapon you get are randomized, some of the items are randomized except for items 2 and 3, so you can continue on in the stage, especially for Wily. And yeah, that's a bit of a mouthful as we see Crabcase going to Metal Room, and we get Woodman. As our... Oh, we got ourselves a slow falling lead with a quick... Yeah, that is a very rough Woodman to try to deal with, but Crabcase was able to get there fine. Siberian Bull should be... Oh, takes a death with the body shot in Woodman.
Oh, you hate to see it. As Crabcakes moves on to Bullman stage, finding some tin cans and a Buster Immune Frog. I would say there's very interesting enemy behavior with Woodman there too, because the leaves are falling so quickly and he's shooting his shield right away. You actually get to see 2 shields on the screen, which is quite rare, but getting through it just all right.
Yeah, as the thing is, as long as the shield goes off the screen before the leaves fall, you're able to get multiple shields on screen at once, which can be very irritating to deal with and makes Woodman one of the more annoying robot masters to deal with. Speaking of Woodman, we got Siberian Bull going to Woodman. Probably should talk about the settings for this particular tournament, as Crabcase is just about to head towards Bowman's room. So, Ari, would you like to describe what our rule set is for this tournament?
Absolutely. If this is the first racer joining us for this year, the rule set for this tournament is it is going to be contested under easy difficulty. It is also going to be a zipless tournament. As you would see on the bottom screen, or yeah, the bottom stage of Bubbleman, usually you will zip through that long running section, but you cannot do that in this tournament, as zips are not allowed and you will be penalized for them, up to and including disqualification of the current seed that you're running. Another key factor of this year is hidden stage names. So as you can tell on the boss select screen, there are no names on there, and the runners will not know what stages they're going into unless they check them.
And we find Airman in Bowman's room, and ooh, we got a special one here. One of the interesting things that Airman can do in this room is he can stick to the ceilings. So we got ourselves what I like to call a Velcro air. And now Crabcase had got to deal with a precarious situation in which you got to get very close to the spikes to hit Airman. And to make it worse, he's actually not Buster Soft weak. There are 4 Robot Masters that are Buster Soft weak, and there's the possible consequence of Airman just being so glued to the spikes. Crabcase taking an unfortunate death and having to restart the fight all over again.
It is definitely my favorite glitch to see because it's funny, but my least favorite to deal with. As Siberian Bull taking on Quickman at the end of Woodman stage here. Seems to get him down with no problems.
So let's see. Ah, there we go. There's one of our randomization possibilities. So with the items that you find are randomized amongst the 8 Robot Masters. As Crab Case gets her revenge on Airman, we find that item 1 was found in Woodman stage. So one of the things about the items, only item 1 has a randomized attribute in that is duration, is speed, and is, well, a lot. Lost a bit of focus as Siberian Bull takes a dive in our bitrate falls area. Frog's pretty much clipping him off the side of the ledge.
Yeah, that tiny little frog just said no thank you to Siberian Bull today. Get off my ledge. As Crabcake's getting through Flashman right now.
Yeah, Flashman is actually one of the easier stages to deal with, regardless of difficulty. Is not too many enemies in a, well, it's easy in a general sense due to the randomization of the enemies and how they can be placed. It could be very damaging, especially for the first part where you have a very narrow walkway to move around, but it seems like the enemies for the most part have been very friendly, so it's going to be, well, it was friendly until we got our sky crabs.
Absolutely. So that's going to prevent Crabcakes from getting that E-Tank unless you wanted to, well, potentially really nothing could be done there.
So we got Crabcakes going to our flash room, and we got ourselves a basically vanilla flash in this room. A little bit of a jumpy boy though, but wow, that is devastating. We found ourselves a heat weakness. So Crabcakes hopefully realizing that weakness, as weaknesses are randomized amongst the Robot Masters, that could be very helpful in the boss refights.
Wait, Cree, you rolled this seed. Is this thing even randomized? Flashman and Flashman stage.
It's randomized enough. We're about to see Siberian Bull take on Airman and Bubbleman's room again. So I think the seed was rolled fairly randomly enough, I would like to assume.
Also, one thing to point out, Siberian Bull finding the atomic fire early on in the seed and finding that it is a instant shot and does not require a charge, which is one of the behaviors for atomic fire, which is also a great weapon to cruise through these stages with, so having a little bit of an advantage on that.
Yeah, checking out weapons is a pretty good thing to try and look up upon, because weapon attributes that you get are randomized for each and every single weapon. Like it's solved for atomic fire, it can charge for random durations, or it can be a full charge shot from the get-go. You also have like Time Stopper, which we could possibly see. It could drain the energy like normal, or it can go in short durations for random energy sports, like similar to say the Flash Stopper from Mega Man 4. So weapon attributes can be really important in how to deal with enemies that are going to be along your path. So we got Crabcase, our first going to our quick door, having both of our runners going to the same stage, and we found Heatman in Quickman's room.
Alright, testing some weaknesses here. It is not heat, it is not air, and it's not quick, and taking a death for trouble on that scouting there.
Yeah, I was about to say, and that was not a good thing, dying on Heatman, but it seems like, yeah, Heatman winds up being one of our Buster soft weak enemies. Like, as I was trying to say before, there are 4 Robot Masters that are soft weak to the Buster, and on the easy settings, that deals 4 damage, and for someone like Heatman, who can be invulnerable for a very long period of time, having a soft weak, as we find item 2 in Quickman stage, having a soft weak Buster just makes the fight much more tolerable, as opposed to dealing a base amount of damage and doing some weakness hunting, which can be fairly annoying.
Alright, let's see what Heatman stage has in store for our runners. Can be classically one of the more tricky stages in the randomizer. Looks like we got some Sniper Joes and some Lightning Lords. Not too bad to deal with.
It's a somewhat annoying combination, but we have seen much worse, especially in this first half of the Heatman stage, as Siberian Bull also takes a death to Heatman. So he's going to have to try to just come back in, bounce back in, take out Heatman for a second time. Looks like we got shrimp in our Yoku block sections. One of the things that you can use to help figure out what's going to be in this second half of Heatman stage is that the enemies there will actually give a preview of what possible enemy, at least one of them, is going to be in this stretch. So you're going to know in this particular section, thanks to that Yoku block section, that you will be dealing with shrimps. If you're going to be dealing more than just shrimps, that's just going to be more of a question mark, as now we know that our tellies and spring enemies along the way.
Crabcase got to be careful here. She might accidentally zip through that pillar.
Yeah, Heatman stage is one of those areas where accidental zips are a high chance of occurring. So, unfortunately, thanks to the rule set, that will incur a penalty, but it's going to be a relatively small penalty since most of these are accidental. And it's usually so small of a penalty that it really might not matter all that much unless the races get really close. And from some of our early tournament matches, that can still mean the difference between winning and losing.
Yes, as previously stated, if you're just joining me, both Siberian Bull 9 and Crabcake's first game in their first races of the tournament and group stages ended up being a tie. So yeah, an incidental zip could very well make the difference.
So if I'm Bubble Man in our Heatman room, looks a fairly tame bubble, except the bubbles are kind of bouncing a bit low. The bouncing patterns of the bubblelet are randomized, but it looked like it was a very easy Bubble Man to deal with, so Cracky was able to just take him out very, very handily. And now we're going to do...
Siberian Bull trying to do item 2 over that gap with the crabs and just getting denied as Crabcakes herself going into Airman stage.
Airman stage could be another one of those stages where it could be very complicated to deal with enemies coming out in the air at random, and of course having to deal with enemies on top of bottomless pits. A potential bad enemy set could spell some very annoying platforming situation, but fortunately, you really must see none of it. The only annoying enemies are really just the birds that are flying in the air, and all the enemies are pretty much either one shot or just deal minor shots with the pea shooter. So, very tame section for Crabcase as Siberian Bull begins to follow suit.
Absolutely, there can be some very nasty enemy combinations in this first screen of Airman, so, you know, lucky for the runners, not too bad to deal with.
And we actually see some time stopper users I was alluding to before. As I was saying, you could have a situation where the time stopper could have been vanilla, could have just been continuously draining. But as you can see, you got a randomized time stop duration period and a randomized ammo usage for the time stopper. So this is actually one of the better time stoppers to get, except for its duration, which seems to be a little shorter than it could be.
Absolutely. Let's see who we got here. Metal Man.
And we got ourselves a quick firing and slow moving sets of Metal Blaze. This is definitely a very spammy Metal Man. As we find our last item in item 3 in there, so we pretty much found all our item placements. As Siberian Bull wisely uses item 2 to fly over quite a majority of the second half of Airman stage, wisely looking towards the left to make sure the birds spawn on the left side so it doesn't get in his way. And now he's on his way to fight an incredibly spammy Metal Man while Crabcase begins our Joe Forrest and Woodman.
Yes, as Siberian Bull getting spammed by Metal Man, Crabcase getting spammed by Joe's.
So it looks like both our runners are properly equipped to deal with the stages, the more devious stages, especially Siberian Bull. Siberian Bull actually was able to save Heatman and Crash for last.
Oh. Crabcake's trying to use the time stopper to mitigate those wolves from spawning, but just being too slow on the draw there, so the hitbox actually blocked her from moving on.
Yeah, this is why time stop. You normally see those kind of time stopper gimmicks in those render sections in Whatman stage to make sure that the hitbox don't spawn, but that would only work if and only if, excuse me, the time stopper is vanilla. With these like mitigated brief time stoppers, those things are not guaranteed to work. So that's why you probably would see like players use other weapons to get by those hot dog mini bosses as opposed to try to use the time stopper to just skip them as a whole.
Yeah, and Siberian Bull having a little bit of trouble on that Yoku block screen there with missing a couple item 3 drops and getting mobbed by some shrimp.
Alright, so we got Crack Case utilizing her item 2 and Siberian Bull using his item 2 early and doing the Yoku blocks manually. So a little bit of a change in strategy. As we got Crab Case going to her Quickman fight in Woodman stage.
Oh, and finding the weakness right away, a hard weakness on Metal Blade there.
Alright, just to make sure that we're on the same page, just refresh the stream to make sure that we're on track. But anyways, it looks like we got both our runners almost Robot Master left before going to the Wily stages. So Crabcase and Siberian Bull will both be going to Crashman stage, and if our timers are indeed synced thanks to our refresh, Crabcase just has a few screens of a lead ahead of Siberian Bull. But Crashman stage is one of those stages where things can get pretty annoying very quickly, especially these moving platform rooms, where if you see the first enemy on the screen in the very first screen on Crashman stage, you're more than likely going to see those enemies in these 3 rooms here that Crabcase are going through. Thankfully, they long have item 1, so they can pretty much just skip the moving platforms and just go. They can just ignore all of it.
Yes, as Crabcake's finding some space monkeys there.
Okay, so we got ourselves our crash climb. Crabcase being the first one to deal with it, and we got ourselves some shrimp. These shrimps, under normal circumstances, probably would be some very dangerous gatekeepers for this climb, but having Time Stopper on hand, just wisely deciding to use this to make sure that she can get by that first barricade of shrimp, and now use the item 3 to quickly traverse the rest of the climb, and she's just a few screens away from the Crashman room.
Yeah, and she got very lucky with the behavior of that shrimp too, where she was able to time stop it before its hitbox got into the ladder, just like siberianbull9 had luck with it as well. Excellent.
There is a slight means to tell which enemy could be in those sections as we find Crash in his room. If you go to the screen just before the screens with the moving platforms, you can one of the enemies are gonna be seen, and they could be in these climbing segments.
All right, Crab's finding a good weakness in air shooter to Crashman there, but having to take an E-tank wisely as to avoid the death. And now, ladies and gentlemen, on Crab Creek's screen, I would like to introduce you to the best eyebrows in video gaming.
And with those glorious eyebrows on the screen, for those that aren't familiar with how we do in the Mega Man 2 randomizer community, you know what time it is. The Mega the Mega Dragon is one of those characters that does have a randomized color and a randomized weakness. So, ladies and gentlemen, you know what to do. Guess the color of the Mega Dragon, and as always, for extra credit, guess that weakness. Ari, I'm gonna hand the reins to you as our first guesser.
Absolutely, and I'll go with my common guess. My first guess every time is going to be a Georgia peach-colored dragon. So a peach dragon with some nice little green accents, and bubble lead for the weakness.
I'm gonna stick with one of my two known first guesses. We're gonna stick with a true blue dragon with a true blue weakness. We're gonna hope that our dragon is gonna be one of our Buster Immune Wily bosses. I mean, Buster Susceptible Wily bosses, not Buster Immune.
Well, I certainly hope so for the runner's sake, because Buster Susceptible Dragon is much easier to deal with than some other choices.
So we got both our runners not too far from each other, probably about half a stage behind each other. So right now we are very, very close and very even. Literally one death at this point could already change the tide of the race. So we got Crab Case being the first into the Mecha Dragon's domain. We're about to see in a few seconds what our glorious color is going to be.
Alright, what do we have?
That looks quite peachy, if you ask me.
Peach, but I'll take it. I'll take it. Let's see what the weakness is here. Not Buster.
And I completely strike out on that one. But it's not metal, it's not crash. Going back to the first page, air's not it. That could have been a good weakness. That was a 3 tornado.
Ooh, that is
Air.
one limp bubble lead, but it is not the weakness. Alright. Crab Cake's finding Atomic Fire.
Decides to pop in the E-Tank just for safety. Able to defeat the Mega Dragon, but not without consequence. Having to use that E-Tank, of course, she winds up still not taking a hit, so that E-Tank was wasted. So she's probably gonna have to take some time to get another E-Tank along the way. Meanwhile, Siberian Bull's about to take out, or at least attempt to take out his Mega Dragon fight. We know that Atomic Fire is one of the weaknesses, but we haven't found the other yet. But look like he's gonna find Atomic Fire anyway, and that's gonna be it. He's gonna follow Kraken very shortly. I wasn't worried.
See, that's the thing about the dragon fight, though. It doesn't really, it can have a little bit of randomness on when it can shoot, but not that difficult to dodge unless you're using a very, difficult weapon like Leaf Shield. Leaf Shield is a very difficult weapon to use on Dragon, in my opinion at least. As Crab Cake's testing the wall weakness here, finding Leaf Shield as the wall weakness.
Well, first and foremost, the Mecha Dragon is really not that random. He pretty much always fires when you're horizontally across from him. But going back to the Leaf Shield wall weakness, that's actually going to be very important for the boobies. Not only because you know the wall weakness, actually that takes away one of the potential god weaknesses that you might not need to destroy walls with in Leaf Shield. So if you're going to be looking for god weaknesses, you're probably going to be hoping for a Metal Blade, and in some cases Air Shooter. I didn't quite get a good glimpse of the trajectory of the Air Shooter, if it is more horizontal or vertical. But if it's the vertical Air Shooter, that could be an option for the boobies, as you're about to see Pico Pico on Crab Cakes in first, Siberian Bull following very close behind.
Alright, not Buster weak, but it is susceptible to Leaf Shield, but it is only... or it's a multi-hit Leaf Shield, so it's not a lazy leaf.
We found ourselves on one-shot Air Shooter. Is it 1-to-1? It looks like it is 1-to-1, so Crafty's probably gonna have to find a different weakness, and she's probably gonna wind up running out of Air Shooter by the time the last Pico unit is gonna come out. Siberian Bull finds the unfortunate news about the Leaf Shield and sticking with Air Shooter, so he's more than likely probably gonna use up all his Air Shooters to defeat the Pico units. and not have to worry about swapping weapons. But he's still probably going to need to refill his air shooter to make sure it's at least manageable, just in case air shooter is going to be a weakness for another boss.
Exactly. As we see Crabcake's doing the very same thing here.
Alright, so we go Wily 3. Are we going to have ourselves a troll situation? No, we do not necessarily. Wily 3 is a straightforward stage, but the enemies here could be fairly trolly if you get drills or the surprise fan fiend that pretty much just dips you straight into the spikes. Otherwise, this stage, especially if you're comfortable with the spike drop, is really not that much of an issue.
Absolutely. It's all about execution.
So just about a few screens and a few enemies away, and Crabcake is going to be our first person to tangle with our Guts tank. The Guts tank is not that big of a deal either. The only issue is just trying to find that weakness, and you're going to have two possible weaknesses for the Guts tank. A third one if Buster is one of them, and Buster's not one of them, so we're going to be doing some weakness hunts. It's not air shooter. Atomic fire is a no-go. Keep digging. Bubble is not it. But we do have found a vanilla weakness in quick boomerangs, so this is going to be as quick as the boomerangs are themselves. Siberian Bull in his Guts tank fight, we're going to see how quickly he finds at least the quick boomerang.
And there he goes. He figures it out. Alright, now as we're coming up to Wily 4, two big things to point out about this stage in the randomizer. The next room's coming up that Crabcakes is going to be going into has false floors, where you can just fall through them. But that is also randomized in the randomizer as well, so there's no real telling where the floors are going to be. There are some ways to check for sure, but...
Yeah, the floors are really randomized in two screens, but there are two really annoying screens. But you have items along the way, so you can pretty much just ignore them completely, as Crabcake so wonderfully showcased to us. Meanwhile, Siberian Bull winds up falling prey just a little bit to one of those false platforms, and winds up wasting just a small bit of time, but he recovers very quickly.
Ooh,
but the other
a little dangerous on Crabcake's part, hitting the ground there.
But now we come to what we like to call our great equalizer, and why Wily 4 is one of the most dangerous stages. Right now we see one single bunny, but that one single bunny can still spell some doom for the screen after this one. But we're gonna see, maybe he could get lucky. Siberian Bull on the other hand,
oh, just catches the ladder.
Unfortunately, the rabbits do not make a comeback in this screen. This screen is very notorious for having bad enemies just being placed in situations where you pretty much can't be safe on the ladder, and instead of being an anxiety room, it's basically a rest home or a rest stop.
Exactly, as long as you don't mess up your placement on that item too. Because I have seen it happen, and it is heartbreaking every time. As Crabcake running into some crabs. That's ironic.
So we got Crabcake first in our boobing moves. You already know that Leaf Shield is our wall weakness, but we don't know what the boobing turrets are. What we do know is it's not going to be the Leaf Shield. The wall weakness and the boobing weakness are never the same weakness. So we're going to be digging for what other weakness is going to be. And it's the air shooter.
Oh, wow.
And actually, looking at the air shooter's trajectory, there is a bit of a vertical climb, especially for the last portion of that 3 tornado set. You might actually not have to use any of the wall weaknesses. You might. It's probably questionable. You might have to do some aiming, but you might not have to destroy walls.
Absolutely. And Crabcake getting through the fight, no problems, on to refight. And to answer, or to respond to a comment in chat from Dwedit, yes, that is why it is classified as zipless and not glitchless.
So yeah, this zips usually, especially in long stretches of screens, can zip you way long distances as compared to like some minor glitches like the pause buffering. Zipless is one of those things that probably saves a little more time and it's probably much more daunting to try as opposed to like pause buffering for safety. So pause buffering in that sense is mostly allowed as it doesn't save that much time compared to say like a long screen zip like you'll probably see in Bubble Man stage or Woodman stage as a whole. So Zipless is really just one of those things that you probably want to. Well, Crab Case, thanks for interrupting my little spiel thanks to dying right here.
That is very unfortunate, because Siberian Bull and Crab Cakes were... She was about half a Robot Master ahead of him before that death.
But yeah, that death is gonna give Siberian Bull just a little bit of an edge, because right now Siberian Bull is on his 4th Robot Master. Crab Case is just now starting her 4th, so now the fantasy is slightly shifted to Siberian Bull. Right now, thanks to that death, this has become exceedingly close. Now it's going to be based on boss RNG and their reactions to their boss fights to just see who's going to come out of the boss rush just slightly ahead of each other. This race has just gotten extremely close.
So incredibly close.
Looks like at this point, Siberian Bull right now just has a 1 Robot Master advantage on these refights against Crab Cakes. But Siberian Bull, the Heatman fight is just so slow. Even though the Buster is a soft weakness, the fact that Heatman was in invulnerability for so long pretty much just almost negates some of the time save that Siberian Bull had thanks to Crab Cake's death. And of course, with the Velcro Air tacking on time as well, getting a little extra effort to try to beat him. And there you go. Crab Cake just regains the lead thanks to some unfortunate boss situations.
All right, let's see. All right, and Wily Machine is Buster weak. All right, so it should be a foregone conclusion that she'll be coming out of Wily Machine before Siberian Bull here.
And of course, for those that don't know, if the machine is Buster weak, it is Buster weak for both phases. Otherwise, you will be doing some weakness hunting, and some weapons are locked in between phases. So Crab Cakes going to what we in the Mega Man 2 randomizer community, thanks to one of our well-known commentators, Trico, like to call Victory Road, and Crab Cakes is just gonna take a quick stroll. And in a few seconds, gonna face our alien, and we're gonna find out what that weakness is, since the alien only has one single weakness.
All right, as Siberian Bull pulling into Victory Road himself. Could all come down to weaknesses. If Siberian Bull finds it on the first shot and Crab Cakes find it on the last, very well may be a tie again.
Well, that's not happening. We got ourselves a Buster weak alien.
Oh, wow. GG's to Crab Cakes with an official SRL time, finishing first in Game 1 of 33 minutes and 36 seconds.
Siberian Bull coming to his Wily Machine fight, very close behind. Just Crab Cakes just winds up just having just a little bit better luck, because both of these runners struggled just a little bit equally. It was just a little bit of a case of luck on Crab Cakes in that pretty much just told the story of the first of our best of 3.
Absolutely, and a big GG's to Siberian Bull 9 as well, with an official SRL time of 34 minutes and 12 seconds.
I'm about to give these guys our new SRL channel. As I said, we are in the best of 3 situation.
Absolutely, and let's give a big round of applause to both of our runners, making a great showing of that first seed. You always like to see a close race like that. Probably, I mean, in anything, not even just Mega Man, but any competition, it just gets the blood flowing, and I couldn't think of a better way to kick off Game 1 of the brackets than it being that close, within a minute.
About to get them their second seed now. So as we have ourselves a little bit of a break, one of the things that I like to do here is like to give a quick overall summary of our first race. So Ari, what was your observation as you saw this first match between Crab Cakes and Siberian Bull as we wait for our runners to get going?
Well, one of my big observations was item usage. So, one runner in particular didn't use items when they had them available, where I feel like they should have, and another runner used items in unconventional spots, i.e. Crab Cakes not using item 2 in Airman stage, and Siberian Bull using item 2 to cross the Yoku block pillars instead of the actual Yoku block section in Heatman stage.
Well, item usage is always going to be important. Honestly, I've been seeing a lot of runners doing what Siberian Bull did as of recent to mitigate some of the crazy shenanigans that the second half of Heatman can do, especially with some very annoying enemy sets. So they would rather just item 2 over that area, and if they're comfortable with the Yoku blocks, just do it from there. It's kind of a bit of either or on the method they want to go through Heatman stage. But yes, item use is going to be really important if they have them available. Having items and how they use them is going to mean a lot, especially in the ziplet settings where you can't use these items to just zip by large areas of screens, and the fact that since you don't know where the robot masters are, since the robot master names are hidden, having items unavailable for specific stages like Heatman or Crashman, they could cause significant time loss.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say one of the big takeaways was Crab Cakes actually starting off Buster first on the Alien, because I caught her first match against Casual Tom, and that was actually the deciding factor that drew that match to a tie, was the fact that she started on the second page. So, trying something different this time definitely panned out for her.
Well, that's pretty much the luck of the draw. You got to make the decision to either go for the first page or the second page, and that could, once again, be the difference between winning and losing. But right now, speaking of winning and losing, Crab Cakes won race 1. Siberian Bull trying to bounce back in the second race. We got SRL going. So in a few seconds, we should see both our runners going underway. Right now, match 2 of our best of 3 in the bracket stage, our first match in the brackets. So we should be coming up very, very shortly. As soon as stream decides to catch up.